Real quick here, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm Gigi if you don't know me. I've been painting for 16 years, so everyone thinks that they can paint, and I end up going in after, and no offense ladies, after a lot of women, wives, have painted something and then they need a painter to come fix it. So painting's not rocket science, it's really not, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to use some common sense. So I am painting the trim of this window before I paint the rest of the bathroom, and this way I can make a mess, get it on the walls like you see. I'm obviously just doing one coat. Normally I would have caulked what needed to be caulked first, but I kind of thought it was done and I was told get the paint on the walls. So anyways, here I am. I went ahead and used like the worst brush ever to do this. So I don't recommend the brush I'm using. I did not pick it out. It was just the one that already had black paint on it. I'm coming in after somebody else, so I'm using what's here. And anyway, so alright, I've got, like I said, I don't recommend this brush for damn near anything, like your children's projects, some Stella Jane on cabinets. That's close to about it. But this was the brush that was left, and that's what we're doing. Like I said, not rocket science, but still need common sense. So you just want to get, and this brush was used before me. If I had been using this brush, by the way, I would never have paint above here. And if for some reason I had paint over halfway between, I would stop, I'd wash it out, dry it out, and start again. Which doesn't really happen for me. Like I said, I've been painting 16 years. However, anyways, this is what I was left with. This is what it looked like when I picked it up. Yes, I have paint on my nose. No, I'm not flipping you off. Okay. So, I know I probably should have started this earlier, but when painting, you want to go into the creases first. So I went into these creases and put it in, and once I get the paint in there, then I gotta flatten it out afterwards. If I go this way, I'm going to make some marks on both sides. So I need to make sure that I come back over here, smooth it out, and if you're making brush marks, this heat right here coming off this lamp is going to dry the paint faster, and it's going to make thicker brush marks. So if you have brush marks, or if you have heat, I kind of will hold it towards the end when I go to feather it out and just lightly back and forth real quick over it to soften it so I'm not leaving those lines. And I'll make sure to come over onto this side and do the same. So after I do the creases, the next thing I want to do is the edges. If I start a board, like say I started, for instance, here, and I go in this crease over here, once I start this board, I want to come and finish that board, and I don't want to get paint on the other boards. And you will, a little bit at the seams, but you don't really want to. Now this is not a normal, perfect way to demonstrate because I'm right up against a wall. However, I still need to get paint over here. This is not going to show my skills. But we're going to come over this way and get that, make sure we get that paint on there. Every time I dip my brush, obviously you don't put too much paint on it. Like I was saying, I don't go over that mark ever. And, but at the same time, I want enough paint on it, so I'll dip it in the paint. I'll hit it like once on each side of my container. There's almost no paint in here, which is why I'm using the container the paint came in, the paint can, as opposed to a handheld that you pour paint from here into. And the reason it's not good to paint out of the can that the paint came in, well, one of the reasons is you're going to end up messing up the top of this, you're going to end up messing up the sides, you're going to make a mess, and you're going to make it hard to get the lid to seal right later after the fact. here I am going, after I've applied the paint, and smoothing out what I have applied, because I don't want the brush marks popping out at you. This is a flat finish on this black. The more gloss that you have in a finish, the more you are going to see your brush strokes. Just FYI. And like I said, you do want to pay attention to the temperature in the room that you are working in, because that will affect how quickly your paint dries, and how quick your paint dries as opposed to staying wet will affect the visual finish of it. Now, also, even though you want to go, seam outward and then go into the inside, you still have these two little dents, and then right here where the two boards meet, which should be caulked, by the way. And when you caulk, you want to keep a wet rag with you, either in one pocket, one hand, or whatever. You want to put the caulk on there. You're going to get your finger wet from that wet rag. You're going to wipe it off. You're going to put the excess on your rag, not on the spot that you're getting your finger wet with, but a little off to the side where it's still wet. And you don't want to leave any fingerprints. You don't want to push caulk off to the side. Anyways, so then back to painting. When I get down here at this seam and I go to apply the paint, like I said, do not use this brush for damn near anything, children's projects. But you're going to want to go from the seam upwards. If you get past the seam over, which happens because you got to cover the whole damn thing, there's no way you're going to get straight on the line up and not. But when you do get it here, you want to put the tip of your brush to where that seam goes, and then you're going to go upward with the wood, because your stroke marks will be noticeable. They will shine in the light. You will see them. So you do want to pay attention. It's not just slapping paint on. It's basically slapping paint on, but slapping paint on with common sense, as opposed to slapping paint on like you're 5 and not thinking about it. It is good to do the trim first, because if for nothing else, you can, after all of the trim is painted, when you go to do your walls, you can put some low adhesive tape. Especially, you want to make sure that your paint, like if I painted this trim, I don't want to adhere tape to it for 48 hours. It takes a while to cure. So even though it's dry and I can touch it and it's dry, if I put tape on it and then paint the walls, and even if I rip the tape off right afterwards, it's going to pull that fresh paint off. So it needs to cure for a minimum of 48 hours. The longer the better. If you are putting tape on something that is recently painted, you do want low adhesive tape, which is going to cost you more. So look at what you're buying, pay attention to what you're buying, know what you're doing. Have fun. But there's just a little tip from Gigi. Alright, I'm going to get back to it, guys. Good luck painting.